Happy Rom-Com Month, everybody. We are doing 28 Days of Love, and today is day 12. I am your host, Melissa Forziat. I'm a keynote speaker. When I speak, my topic is something I call Take the Doughnut, which is another way to say Carpe Diem. It comes from this strange thing that happened after college. I left an actual donut on a table. It became an object lesson for me and what it looks like to leave an opportunity behind. So now I want to take the donut. The reason I'm saying this is that sometimes I'll issue myself a take the donut challenge. There's something that I want to do, something I want to go after. I'll make it official. I'll make some videos about it. And it's a way to hold myself accountable. But this time I'm actually opening up the challenge to anybody who wants to join. So here we are. We're doing 28 days of love, 28 days of rom-coms. Today is day 12, and we're going to talk about Love, Simon. I'm going to talk about, 10 things I love about the movie Love, Simon, but I'm not doing this alone. I have not one, but two very special guests today, César and Ricky, who were the winners of Amazing Race 36. Welcome.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
we're really excited to
Super
be here.
excited.
We're really happy with your movie choice. Well, the movie choice because it really connects. Is
Yeah.
um
It's very familiar to a lot of people's story of coming out and becoming the person you feel like you've been hiding from, and now you can really relive and live in your truth.
but not only that, it's also the connection to our families. Like my mom loves this movie.
Yeah.
Like she watched it and she's like, well, like she got to understand from a different perspective, but like how in a way like this is something that every person or mostly who chooses to come out like goes through
Yeah.
with the hope that you will get this as a response.
Yep.
Like pretty much all the responses that we see in the movie are positive, but we'll talk about it a little later.
And
Yeah,
also, we really love your concept of, take the donut. We kind of had that experience with going on the Amazing Race. We said, you know what, like, let's not regret this. Like, take the opportunity and just like go for it. Um,
We
and
ended up submitting a
and we
video, we got
submitted a
called, we ended
video.
up
Next
winning.
day,
So
we got it, and the rest is history.
yeah.
that show, it's like one donut after another. It's like a donut every day. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the big one of just trying to get on to begin with, but then every single day, I think you can. I think that's one of the. I watched you on that show, and I think one of the amazing things about The Amazing Race is to see the different ways that people approach what's put in front of them.
Yeah.
And without fail, you two always had a positive energy you brought to it. Like, this is what we're doing today, like,
Yeah,
let's
Yep.
see
you
what
never knew the
happens.
flavor of the donut.
Yeah, never knew the flavor. It was a surprise, but you had to still like go for it. And I think one of the things, the mentality for us going into it was like, we know it's going to be hard. We know it's going to be challenging, but like, why be miserable by doing it? Like, just have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that actually really helped. Like, it took a lot of the stress away. So it's a good lesson in life, like, yeah, you're going to have these really challenging things in front of you or opportunities that you're not sure if you want to take because it's going to be hard, but just go for it and have a good time while you do it.
Yeah, and hopefully people watching this who don't already know you are seeing exactly why you're a perfect fit to talk about this film or any film on this list. Especially with, the character of Simon kind of being brave and going after opportunities of his own. I think, it's all kind of a theme around this movie. Everybody is doing that. So, let's talk a little bit about Love, Simon, and the way we're going to approach this today. We're not doing deep dive coverage so much as we're doing a top 10 list of our favorite things. I'm going to do the even numbers. Ricky and Cesar are going to do the odd numbers, and I believe they have some honorable mentions as well, because there are a lot of things to love about Love, Simon. But before we get into that, just really quickly, Love, Simon came out in 2018. It was directed by Greg Berlanti, written by Becky Albertalli, Elizabeth Berger, and Isaac Aptaker. And it stars Nick Robinson as Simon, Jennifer Garner as Emily, Josh Duhamel as Jack, Katherine Langford as Leah, and a whole cast of friends as well. Kanan Lonsdale as Bram or Blue, Alexandra Shipp as Abby, Logan Miller as Martin, Jorge Lindbergh Jr. as Nick. I feel like it's worth mentioning everybody in this cast because everybody kind of gets their moments. Um,
Right.
so that's who we're talking about today. And let's get into our top 10 list of the things we love about this movie. So I'm going to start off with number 10. And it's more of a general observation about one of the actors. Nick Robinson comes across as such an old soul to me. I've seen him in a few different things now, and he always comes across as like wise beyond his years
Yeah.
or more poised than the average, let's say, high schooler. I've seen him in a lot of things that he did when he was younger. So I have always been struck by that energy that he brings to it. And I think it's a particularly good match for this film because of this idea that he's harboring a secret and there's a burden on him. And I think that really speaks to the energy he brings to this movie. So I think this was well cast for that choice.
Yeah, I would agree. He does bring a sense of like groundedness and maturity to like a 17-year-old, like senior in high school. Like, even though he's still figuring this out, he still feels like he's figured a lot of other things out. He has a little bit of a community of like friends. He's kind of like a theater kid. He's has a community with his family, which is like as a 17-year-old, like a lot of times people don't have that, or they're able to like have a good relationship with a sibling or have a
Yeah.
three or four like really close friends. And he still kind of felt like he had a place in like the community of his high school. So yeah, he definitely has like this grounded maturity that like I don't know many 17-year-olds would have.
Yeah. I think the occasional one does, and it doesn't strike me as like far-fetched, but it does strike me as he reminds me of some people that I've known.
Mm.
And I guess I've always liked those people, so I want to like him. And he's a good kid at the end of the day. He does some things that make his friends not so happy, but I think and he's at a point in his life where he has to really focus on who he is,
Yeah.
but he's still got a kindness about him and a maturity, like you said.
Mhm.
So I
I just
really
feel like
appreciate that.
he also makes that transition, like the first half of the movie, like he really embodies that, like being terrified of like someone will find out,
Yeah.
but at the end, like you see the little hints in there of the tenderness of just like messaging with Blue and being like, hey, like he runs after the phone, he's always waiting for that email, like, so you see those little glimpses, and then once he start coming out to people, like he just like you see him relieve. So I think again, like with the casting, he did great. Like they did great casting him. Like you see that transition
Hmm.
as well on like how that weight is lifted. Like
Mhm.
so.
So good. And yeah, the way he gets excited, like the life that comes into his
Yeah.
eyes when he gets these messages. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's number
Yeah.
10. What do you have for number 9?
So number 9, we have everyone having to come out.
Yeah, so
Like
if as if you were coming out as like a straight person, like to your family, like that whole sequence of
all his
scenes
friends,
with all
like
his
seeing
friends, like
everyone.
mom, like I like girls, and it's like, oh God, like are you trying to kill me?
Yeah,
Like
like
their
yeah.
reactions, this all of those little vignettes were just so funny. But it also makes you think, like, what if this was the norm for everyone? Like you even though that's like the normative thing is like you're heterosexual, but it's not, right? Put yourself in another person's shoes or situation, and would you have the same
I
reaction?
feel like watching it like for a heterosexual person would be like yeah, I've never thought even of what would have been like if I have to come
Yeah.
out, like that scene and that sequence might give a little sense of empathy for the people in the community and the LGBTQ
Hmm.
plus like community, like on yeah, how we felt when coming out,
Yeah.
like how that again, that terrifying feeling of like how are they gonna respond um when you don't know, and like this is the people that you have grown with, and like the people that are supposed to be
Hmm.
the ones that love you the most. So yeah, like
Yeah.
we really it's a funny scene and a funny sequence, but really has a lot to think about, and
Yeah, it's
like
a lot deeper than just, was it Abby's mom? She's
yeah,
like, she's on the couch, she's like, oh Lord Jesus, like
yeah,
help me, like, it's like that's the reality for some people. You know, like people's parents and family like really have these big reactions
Once you
and
come out, yeah.
once you come out and it's like put yourself in you know, a queer person's shoes and like imagine if your parents said the same thing when you said like, "Oh, hey mom and dad, you know, I'm dating this girl." And it's like, "What?" I don't know. It's funny, but it really makes you think of like you know, what everyone else is going through.
Hmm. Yeah, it's such a good scene because as somebody who hasn't had the experience of having to come out, it plays on more than one level. It's very informative because on the first level, it's supposed to play for comedy, I think, to a degree.
Mhm.
That I think they're aiming for that. They're aiming for like, isn't this preposterous? Um, but then you go, wait, hold on. Let me think about that a little bit more. It's maybe for me the most effective scene in the movie
Yeah.
in that way, because it really kind of helps put me there and put me um, more in Simon's mind and in his shoes than I would have otherwise been.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Uh,
also I feel like it also hits for someone that is like a relative to someone queer coming out, you know? Because it's like what is my expectation? Like if you react like that, like yeah, like it almost gives that hint of like it's silly if you react like that because then you see it later on when he actually comes
yeah.
out, like how people start reacting to him. Yeah.
And so I guess if this is something where you identify with Simon and you're sharing this with people that you love, it's almost like a here are the following like six things not to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Pretty much.
The do's and don't list. Yeah.
It's like let's just play them out so you can see them. This is your
Yeah.
Yeah.
workshop. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Don't do these things or people will laugh at you.
Yeah, like let's get away from these options towards these other ones. Okay. Oh my goodness. It's such a good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to bring me to a different character that we don't see as much of for number 8, but what we do see is magical. So I wanted to bring up Ms. Albright and specifically the reaction she gives. I think it's the first time we see her
Yeah.
to watching them try to rehearse cabaret so badly. And as the movie goes on, you know that she was in this industry. She had aspirations, and it
Hmm.
pains her to watch what's happening on this stage right now. Um, she was an extra in The Lion King, and this is where she is.
Yeah.
You know, is and the performance itself, it was very earnest. They approached it with great enthusiasm. It was a little rough, and she's just horrified by what she sees on stage.
What
I
is
just
happening?
love her.
And
Yeah.
she isn't wasn't she like trying to like act out the moves at one point? Like,
That was later on
oh no,
because
that's later.
at that point she's just saying like, oh yeah, it was a great idea having to accept everyone into the play, even if they didn't
Even if they
have
didn't
talent or
have
something like that.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like in the odd situation where somebody shouldn't have been in this play, we took him anyway. Yeah, she's so good. And I just wanted to name check that actor here for a moment because she is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
She has this way of being so like over the top and so natural at exactly the same time.
Natasha
Um,
Rothwell.
yes.
Yeah. She was
She was so
So
funny.
good.
so funny.
But the introduction in this scene of her just like you see her in this scene and you want more. I did anyway.
So as a
Um,
theater kid, what
Yeah,
are your
and
thoughts?
I'm a
Like, yeah.
theater kid. I did theater in middle school, high school. I went to school for musical theater. So like all of these like scenes with her and with the musical and everything just kind of like felt really good and nostalgic. I don't know that my director of a show would have ever said anything like that before, like to us, but it was cool to see like her reaction and but she still like stuck around. She got him through it, you know, but um
It is just so funny.
like that cool, like she's that cool, like honest,
It's
you
the
know.
full comedy relief of the movie.
yeah.
Like she does that.
Yes,
It's
yeah.
like
Every line is
yeah.
like is good.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Just star for her. She's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so number 8. So what do you have for number 7?
Number seven.
Number seven. So we have Simon seen with Abby in the car. He pulls over and then he comes out to her. And we thought this was really interesting because there was something like a switch in him that said like, okay, this is a safe person.
It's someone that, in a way, and I feel like I can relate there, like just going back in just time and seeing how someone that is new to your life,
Yeah.
it might be easier to, like, in the same way,
Yeah,
like.
he's only known her for 6 months. So it's like, why is he coming out to this person that he kind of doesn't really know?
But we also bring up Abby into this scene because I like her backstory, right? Like she moves cities because she needs a fresh start. And like she having that fresh start, it almost like gives Simon the opportunity for himself as well, like turn the page and be like fully open with this new person
Yeah.
that he feels that he won't be
Yeah.
judged at all. And her reaction is that like he's like he's almost confused that she's not surprised.
She's like,
And
"Do you
she's
want
like,
me to be surprised?" And it's like I'm here for you regardless. Like I'll give you whatever reaction you want, but yeah, and it also gave him I think a little bit of confidence and security knowing like okay, even if she is upset, even if she is like she doesn't agree or she doesn't want to be my friend, there's not much of a loss. I've only known her for 6 months, and it was difficult for him to do it with his best friend, Leah, of 13 years, right?
which
The
for a
first.
movie you would have thought that he's gonna come out
Oh,
to
he's
his
gonna come
best
out to
friend,
her.
like the person that he has known the most, right? And like, yeah, it just you get to see more. I feel like that's part of what I really like this movie because it really sets those pointers that a queer person goes through when coming out. Like it is on the verge of being really accurate on just like the
Mhm.
way that you think. So yeah, we were like
Yeah,
as
that
we
was
were
a great
rewatching the
scene.
movie as well, we were here and there, we were just like cleaning our tears. Because it's
Yeah, it's a
really sweet.
sweet
It's a
scene. Yeah.
really sweet scene, and that's why we thought that it needed to be on the list.
I think that's one of the great things that this movie does is it really articulates. This movie does a lot of exposition, but it does it through like Simon explaining exactly why he's doing the things he's doing. And I actually think it's really important for this film. And so I appreciated getting his thought process on why Abby was the right person. And we don't get it all in that moment. We get
Yeah.
some of it like sort of dripped through the rest of the movie. But why not Leah? Why yes, Abby? And then to understand like, oh, this was lower stakes for him.
Yeah.
Like this, it would have been maybe cataclysmic if Leah had walked away. But maybe if Abby did, he could handle that. It would have been complicated in his friend group, but um, just to understand a little bit more about why he was making the choices that he was making and that he was able to tell us
Yeah,
was again, I think you need an actor with some amount of poise and self-awareness to be able to pull this off.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. And Abby's reaction, you mentioned her saying like, gee, you want me to be surprised? It was the one moment where I felt like, is Abby a secret therapist or like
I know.
has she been to therapy? Like, do
Yeah.
you want me to be like, let me just put this right back
Yeah.
to
He
you
was
and
like,
just see.
he said, like, you aren't surprised. And she's like, no. But she was like, did you know? And she's like, no. But like, yeah, it was just, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like, do you want me?
Yeah, she's a little bit of a blank slate there, and I think that's maybe, what he needed. Is such a beautiful scene. Well, that actually leads pretty well into number six for me, and that's the fact that pretty much every character is harboring a secret. Um,
Yeah.
Ultimately, like this is a story, a very important story about Simon's journey. And I think it connects us back to the fact that in real life, all humans have things that they don't talk about, that they're working out for themselves.
Yeah.
And they figure out how to get there in their own time. And it all might look qualitatively different, might be in different buckets, different arenas of your life, but it's, to see every character in this film have a secret. And I think one of the things that does is a lot of times you'll see a rom-com where you've got a couple main characters that you're tracking, and then there's like some friends on the
Yeah.
side who aren't particularly fleshed out. But I think the fact that every single one of the people that we're tracking in this film has something really deep they're holding on to that we can see what's happening as the
Hmm.
audience, it makes it feel like every character in this film is a full, complete person.
Yeah. And
And
that there's
I
depth to each of them.
yeah, so it's nice to have that. There are a lot of people that we're tracking here, and we kind of know enough about everybody to be like, "Oh, this is going to be a problem because this person feels this
Yep.
way."
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to watch. I think it adds complexity to the film, and it makes every character one that you want to follow.
Because he's not only like his main group of friends, but like all the possible identities for Blue, like the Waffle House waiter, like the pianist. Who else was it? Like like at some point he had like three or four. Like
Yeah, it was like
at some
three or
point he was
four.
right and he was following like we started following Bram's story, and then he finds him out like making out with this girl. So
And then he's
like
like, oh, never mind, not him, right?
but like the way that they portrayed like these possibilities as the actual Blue, and like we get transport to these scenes with these guys like having their holidays
Yeah,
with
that
their
it's possible
parents.
that these people also have a secret, right? Not even the like main characters, just these little like,
And on this point as well, like we see that once, and we're just gonna fast forward, once Simon has come out, we see that Leah contacts him and he's like, well, there has been four new people that are coming out, like for different, not necessarily coming out as queer, but like other things, but like
a
actually
confession of a
signing
secret.
a confession with a sign. So like you get to see as well how inspiring it is, and I think that's something that hits personal as well, because if I have say something is like once I came out, I was like, yes, I can be fully myself and I can show future generations, and just like on my immediate circle, like whether relatives, family, like if one of the young ones is queer, like I hope they have it easier than what I have it, right? Like I hope they don't have to wait until they're a certain age to come out. So
Mhm.
like just seeing that, I feel like it's part of the good and
Yeah.
inspiring of this movie, Love, Simon.
Yeah, and also what it's like to what is like to feel when you have a secret, what that does to your personality, what it does to your relationships. Like when you're holding on to this thing, it kind of pulls you down.
Yeah, we go back to
Yeah,
point number 10, like where we see like Simon like evolving through the movie, and like
yeah.
how
Once he
that yeah.
releases that secret, it's he's open to more experiences.
It's one of the things that I think worked so well, like somebody in the audience, because they don't necessarily reveal exactly what their secret is for a little while, but you know that this character has a heaviness that they're dealing like with a certain person or in a certain way.
Mhm.
And there are secrets that you know what they are before they articulate them, before they say them out loud, and it's like you can feel the tension in the relationships that sometimes the characters themselves don't clock, which is what makes it interesting to watch. But everybody does such a good job of
Yeah.
portraying that. Like you said, it's a personality shift. It's like it brings you inside a lot more, and we got to see that play out. And I imagine I have to think that the fact that this movie works is just great writing, because you pointed out like all of these different sort of I don't know, vignettes that we get with all these possible blues that could easily not make sense in how they show it to us, but
Yeah.
it does. And I think this movie tries to do some complicated things in terms of structure, and it works. It pulls it off really well, and it has to.
Yeah. Yeah, like it
um
mentions what's the doesn't the pianist mention or he thinks it's the pianist because he's like, oh, I'm going to be away for 2 weeks because I don't have a signal, and it's going to be this cabin, da, 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 and he like mentions it in a scene before. So like that connection, sets it up for that little scene to make sense. Like, oh, it definitely could be them.
yeah, so good.
Love it.
Okay, so that's number 6 for me. What
We're
do you
going
have
to
for number
number
5?
5. Yeah. Uh we have this in, and we have to bring her back
Bring her back.
into our points. Mrs. Albright just like getting into the cafeteria to shut down the bullies,
Yeah.
like as they were doing this performance of like
Of Simon and the other
and
openly
Ethan,
gay
yeah.
Ethan,
So
yeah.
So we have like them like mocking them, and it's just one of those things again,
It is
terrifying that something
it's
happens to you.
so good. Like she comes in and she just shuts them down. Like, listen, you want to act a fool and you want to, you want to do this, like you better be ready for the consequences. Like, I'm gonna lay it. And the one says, well, you can't say that to us. She's like, well, I just did. Like, what are you gonna do about it?
And that is
Like,
awesome because
you're,
like that is the thing that Simon was terrified the first half of the movie, right? So then it happens. Like it actually like it's happening to him right there. And then Ethan has this line that is like, yeah, one gay is
oh,
um,
one, yeah. Oh,
I
what did he
forgot the
say?
line.
Something, something about being one gay is something, but two gays is like a
A
revolution, a
a
hate
hate
crime or
crime, yeah.
something.
So one gay is overlooked, two it's a
Yeah,
hate crime. So like it just sucks that like yeah, because for Simon it's like, yeah, Ethan, you had it so easy. And I know we're jumping scenes, but like it pretty much is connected to that,
yeah,
like where they're being both being make fun of. And it's just like how much pain these other two kids are causing them.
yeah.
And like Mrs. Albright coming in and being like, hey, like why don't we fast forward and like to both of you being
You're
like the
average what did she say? Like average mediocre or something.
and it's just
Yeah,
like
just
so good. At that
so
point
many
we were
good
like,
lines
whoa, like having an adult like that
to advocate
to
for you and to stick up for you. Like it's really important, I think, for a lot of people to have, even if it's just that one adult that's in your corner. Um, and she did it publicly, like in front of everyone, and it's
yeah.
like,
And she put on she set up an example like, hey, if you're planning to do something like that, you're gonna get called out.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
great, like that. Yeah, it needed
Hmm.
to be on the list as well. We needed
Uh,
to bring her back on.
I love her. I love that scene. It's funny, my reaction to it when I first was watching it, the initial like when she goes in to say, "No, I've got this, Simon." I was like, "Ooh, should she? Like, should he is it effective for somebody who's not Simon to do this?
Yeah.
If he wants to shut it down for himself." So for maybe zero point 0.2 seconds that was going through my mind. And then I heard what she was saying and I was like, "No, this was needed."
Yeah.
Like we all needed this, especially if you've ever experienced being bullied with adults around.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you doing nothing exactly? Like what is happening here?
Yeah.
The sort of complicit nature that you can feel from the people around you when they are seeing what's happening and doing nothing about it, and the fact that she steps in and like I don't know who in her life she was speaking to. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because it feels like she's not exactly just talking to these kids. Like it feels like somebody from way back, like that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
just unleashing finally after all these years. So I feel like there's a catharsis there for her.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's
But
so
it's so
good.
good. It's so well placed. And
Yeah.
it's like, yes, like you're cheering for her,
Yeah.
for them, like, and it's
And then also the vice principal, was it Mr. Howe? What's
I
his?
forgot his
I
name.
think it's Mr. Howell, I think.
But
He's also a great like,
he doesn't know how to
but he
approach it.
doesn't know
Mr.
how. It's
Worth, I think.
oh,
Uh,
Worth. Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe. Yeah, Mr. Worth. Yeah, he wants to be there. He wants to be supportive because that's the
but
type
he
of
is
vice
not good at
principal
it.
he is, but he's not good at it. And it's just another version of an adult saying like, okay, I might not know what I'm talking about, but I'm here for you. And sometimes that's good enough. Like that's kind of all you need is,
He messes up here and there.
oh
But
yeah,
like,
oh yeah.
yeah, and
He's a
badly.
he's a
It's
little
like,
he's a little awkward. He's like talking about his Tinder dates and everything else, but um
yeah,
yeah. But he
Oh
came
my
in and
gosh.
he puts down the rule that like this is a school of tolerance and respect.
yeah,
And it would be wonderful if every school was like that. Even if you're not in the LGBTQ community, for across all schools, all people, that's how school should be. And I think that's one of his like driving things. Yeah. Those two like school teachers are great.
So good. Um, yeah, I love her character. He's an interesting one to follow.
it's
He
yeah,
it's like he's good natured. His heart is in the right place. It doesn't always come out right, but
yep. I
Yeah.
agree. So
Let's
what do
go
you
with
have for number four?
number four. I am so conflicted about this character, but I want to mention one specific line from Martin. Um, I don't want your help in changing me. He's asking for help, but that's not the help he's asking for. He wants Abby to like him for him, not to
Yeah.
be changed. Like, it's kind of interesting because there are so many rom-coms that play with the trope of like nerdy kid gets cool. Or
Yeah.
like, and all of a sudden, yeah, we could go back to Greece even. Like, like it's just like this idea that like I became this other thing so that the person I like can like me back.
Yeah.
And Martin is actually saying, can we not
Yeah.
like, can we not do that?
Like I'm
Yeah.
just
That's not the goal here. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm me and I want to be liked for who I am. And ultimately, I think that's what every character in this movie is trying to accomplish. But he's just the one who says it in those specific words.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that was a mic drop from Martin.
Mhm.
Um, and I think he was saying it specifically to Simon in that moment. So, like, it might have been a wake up call for Simon as well, because Simon's dealing with the same thing. So to hear that reflected back to him was probably, something that got his attention in the context of a very complicated relationship that he had with Martin. So yeah, I don't want your help in changing me is sort of a thesis statement, I think, in this movie.
Yeah, I think for sure. Like you said, he's a very interesting character. You don't like him at first, and then you kind of like him, and then he has these like little like really great lines like in the
like even in the
diner or the
diner or the
Waffle
Waffle
House.
House.
He's like,
Yeah.
"No, you deserve a superhero." Like, what a brilliant thing to say, like to someone who's gone through all of these things or has felt neglected by a parent or by someone else. And then it's like he's like, "No, like I'm not gonna stop saying it till you say it and you believe it." Like, that's really powerful. Even though he has some other lines of like, I don't know about you, Martin, but
But
like it's another really good one.
yeah, it's just at the beginning of the movie you really start disliking him, like he's doing this like awful thing.
Yeah.
But then in a way I fall as well, like disliking Simon for doing that to his friends. You're seeing how the struggle is real there, because he
Hmm.
doesn't want his secret to come out, but also he goes to the point that he's willing to hurt his friends, but he's not seeing it as much, like he's just collateral damage for protecting himself. So like I think that evolution on those characters, like it's a cool thing that has you hooked to the whole movie,
Hmm.
especially during that first half where like it's just a lot of feelings felt,
Yeah.
you know, and waiting to see what the result and the outcome is gonna be. But I
Yeah.
think Martin, I applaud Martin for that phrase. Like it really hits,
Yeah.
because he's like, hey, I am not
Yeah.
planning to change. I just wanna
Yeah. I
shoot
want
my
someone to
shot.
like
Yeah,
me for me because I like
yeah.
her. So hopefully, she can see me. And it does happen a little bit. Abby
But
does start.
she said it herself. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you want to be friends? We can be friends. Like but that's about, yeah.
Yeah, which is more than he had at the start of this thing,
Mhm.
Like, I mean, it's he was leveled up to friendship with Abby by the end of it. But I do like your point that, Simon himself hurts the people around him because he's so focused on what's happening for him. And I think that does it's why it's so hard to be human. It's like we're all going through our own things. And sometimes when people hurt you or do something that offends you or makes you upset, you have to ask, like, is this the core of who this person is, or are they dealing with something and you don't know?
Yeah.
And so this movie, I think, does a good job of saying like, well, sometimes it is you're just dealing with things, and you can't even think about the impact to the other people around you because you're so focused on just getting through it yourself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's
And
it's
and, and that's kind of what happens to Martin as well,
mhm.
right? He's like, I have to put this out there so the heat is off of me.
But for that,
Yeah.
wait, because we're gonna hit our point number three. And that's when we're hitting that scene. So our point number three, it is, we
Oh
will
yeah.
call it, I'm still like, no, this one is, that's supposed to be my thing, right? And
Yeah.
we're going to the scene where Martin like tries to
He runs up and
apologize.
he's like, "Hey, like I needed to get the heat off of me from the homecoming, proposal thing." And
And you sort of understand it. It's like, yeah, but still, you're doing something to damage
yeah.
another person.
And Simon says like, "No, like that was supposed to be a thing that I did. That was my thing. Like I was supposed to be the one to control when I came
And I
out."
think that's a big thing when coming out, because for some people, like you might have had it a little easier. For some others, you have to wait because it's not the safe space. Like you might get hurt if you come out, right? So like when something like this, it's out for the knowledge of this one person, like you don't know how that will affect. Like what is the domino effect that is gonna cause? Um, so you see it there, like it could not only have heard like, yeah, everyone knowing in the school, but what if then Simon is in a situation where like he then becomes homeless, then he becomes like not
Yeah.
supported at all, when he becomes like just bringing it more to reality. Like yes, it is a movie, but like at the end of the day we have to see like what happens out there. Is like sometimes we're like, yeah, you should come out, like it's really
It's not that,
refreshing. Is
yeah.
like, is this weight lifted out of you? But you never know, like you need to know the timing. And that's why like the phrase like that was supposed to be my thing is like, you need to be okay with the timing, you need to be
Yeah.
comfortable to, and like to see like to whom. Maybe like Simon was Avi, and then it was at that point in his life, and maybe he was inspired a little bit by Blue, but like that is, he was taking these steps and he wanted to take them at his own
Yeah.
pace
It's
and
a
his own
personal
rhythm.
progression of things because you don't know. You have to protect yourself. There's a self-preservation for queer people before they come out. It's like, when is the right time? Who are the right people? Um, because there's so many horror stories of people coming out. So there is a sense of like terror, like if I do this, what's going to happen? Is my family going to be great? I think Simon is in a very loving family, so it doesn't seem like it. But his dad makes all these comments, all these like, oh, is it a girlfriend? But he's trying to connect with his son, but unaware, right? So it could have gone really bad with his dad, or it could have been really bad at school, or whatever it may have been. So I think it's a really good point to say, like, in your own time, like it has to be your own time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
and
have to
Martin
be.
took that away from him. I think when I think about just humans on this planet, I think we have a really amazing capacity to know how resilient we can be. Like, if you have something that feels very high stakes to you and you don't feel ready to talk about it yet, we have an amazing capacity to suddenly know when we are. Even if even if it's still going to be hard. Like even if it's still going to be hard, sometimes I think I'm kind of more ready for the worst case scenario than I was before. And
Yeah.
whatever that looks like, I think we're good at being able, a lot of us are good at being able to judge that for ourselves. And, Martin took that away from Simon. And it's one of the reasons my feelings about Martin are so complicated. And I think it's a great character to see on screen because of that, because you don't know if you love him, you don't know if you hate him. You alternate between these things. He does these things that are awful, and then he does these things that are amazing, and he has sort of no in the middle.
Yeah.
Like
No.
he just vacillates from being the worst, the absolute worst, to being the absolute best in every scene. And when I come away from this movie, I'm like, how do I feel about Martin? And I don't really know. And I think in a movie character, that's probably a good trait. I don't know if that's like the chaotic energy of that is something I'd want
Yeah.
in my life.
But
But
you finish the movie and you feel empathy, and I think that's a cool thing about this movie. Like whether any of these characters, you're feeling certain empathy because you were placed in those shoes for a short second. Like you're seeing their backstories enough that you understand why they're doing the things that they're doing. In this case, for Martin, was out of fear as well. Like they were both fearful, and it's like,
Yeah.
how can I protect myself, like to stop being damaged? Because like this community, this chat is just like being super hateful toward me, so like let me try to shift the storyline to something else. So at that very moment, you feel a little empathy, but also you're like, you like Simon enough that you're like, oh, but I'm supposed to like, and I feel like, as you said it, like there's no middle, but he's not exactly the antagonist. Like he's just one more character, and it's someone that you like at moments and you dislike at others. But again, like I feel like the biggest thing that you get out of this movie is empathy and trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this brings me to number two. Um, really the climax of this movie, just the support of Simon's friends, his community, when he gets on that Ferris wheel alone.
Mhm.
And all the different ways that support comes across, like his friends bringing him there to begin with, and then standing there for the whole ride, and then people cheering him on with excitement at the beginning, and then people just
Just
sort of being with him
Yeah.
when it's going really badly, and then the last ride, and Martin's like, no, I can't let this happen. Like,
and
And you
even
all get shocked. You're like, wait, is it Martin? And you're like, no.
this can't be. And then he's like, this is unacceptable. I will not let this happen to you.
Uh-huh.
And then when the beautiful thing does happen, and Brim does join him, and then it's everybody's success, like they're
Yeah.
happy for him, they're happy for them. Um, it's just to see the support just manifest in that way, because we've seen it for the whole film.
Hmm.
Um, but in volume like that, and you want to be sort of cheering with them. And the fact that they knew, like, he needs to do this alone, but we're going to be right here.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that.
Which for a
Which
second
is
thinking
really
was like it would
sweet.
have been really scary being Bram at that moment, like having
I
all
know,
of that
right? Like, could you
audience.
imagine a huge audience? You're not necessarily wanting to be out, but again, it you have that power. It's your choice to come out or not. And I think he saw everyone there being
That support,
supportive, and
yeah.
it's like it gives you that chance of like, okay, it's going to be
Hey,
okay.
even the Ferris wheel
Yeah.
operator, like he was like last call, like he
Yeah.
was like he knew what
He was
was
also
happening.
invested too. Yeah.
And you're right about that. It would have been scary for Bram. I think this would have been the most openly positive vocally like situation for him to come
Mhm.
out into. So I guess you weigh that up against all the other things that are happening in your mind. Um, like when else is he going to get somebody to cheer in this way?
Yeah.
Like this is like a very unique situation. And he's, yeah, the bravery of everybody in this film, really, to just finally put it out there.
Yeah, and it highlights how important support is. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads us to our last one.
Mhm.
And talking about support and Simon's, coming out to his parents and his family. Um,
I think one of the first lines that he has is like, "I'm gay, and but I'm still being
but I'm
me,
still
right? I'm
me.
still me." And I think that hits hard because like it's crazy to see that how sometimes those words "I'm gay" or it could be anything like
Yeah.
"I'm queer," like it doesn't matter that, but like that coming out, like how that simple phrase can change a life like 180 degrees.
Yeah.
Like it could be like how the reaction of the other people is gonna be. And like again, we talked about it previously, like on that possible scenario scenes, and like if a heterosexual had to come out as well, all of that. But we see through the movie how supportive his family is, and we're just hoping through the whole movie that they will react properly.
Yeah.
um but then I think it's those conversations that he has with his parents after he had come out, right? And in
Those
this
yeah,
in
those
this
two
case, he
scenes.
goes to his mom, and his mom is just telling him how much she loves him,
Yeah.
but
And
also,
that like that this was by far the biggest scene for tears for me.
yeah, and I think that's
Like
it.
his
That's what really
conversation with
makes it
mom,
number one. Like
he's
it's
like, she even says, like, I noticed you had something. The theme of a secret, right, comes up at the end, and it's, I felt like for the past couple of years, you've just been holding your breath, right? You've just been like holding on to this, and like for her to feel in tuned with that, you know, makes her, I don't know, it just gives her more, we know she's like a therapist and, all these things, but she really is in tune with him in that way. And then for her to say,
I
like,
mean, I think, yeah, that's a home run. Like
this is like, really all you need in support is your parents, right? That
Yeah,
unconditional
yeah,
love. And she says, now
get
you get the chance to be
you
you,
even more than
even
like you
more
have
than
been.
before,
Yeah.
so it's like you get to
So
show
she,
every bit of you no matter what
yeah,
now.
she takes his own words like I'm still me, and she just says like, well, now you are more yourself that you have been, like
Yeah.
having this secret. Now you don't have to hide it. Now you don't have to like you get to be your whole self without that fear
Hmm.
of like what's gonna happen. And I think that's really like why it made it to number one, because it was super important
Yeah.
for him and for everyone coming out like to feel that support. I think that's the ultimate goal, that what you're hoping for. And that could be from your family, that could be from your best friends, that could be for the community that you build around yourself. And once you're ready and you come out to someone, it is a really important moment that again, not everyone has to do, but having to do it, like if someone is doing it to you, someone is coming out to you, I think that is the hope. That reaction is the hope.
Is the hope. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And she says one of the lines she says is "You are still you" in that conversation she has. And then I like that she goes as far as like explaining who she thinks he is. Like, you're the person who eats your sister's terrible cooking. Like, you're
Hmm.
the person who, and she starts saying, like, you're not just one thing. Like, this one thing has been weighing you down, has been felt like a big secret. And it's so great that you get to like let that go now and be all of the things. And here's some of the things. And I think for a lot of us at different stages in our lives, like sometimes you think you're defined by something and that ends, or like sometimes we don't know who we are and we're really wrapped up in one label, or but the people around us sometimes, if we're lucky, can see the bigger picture and help root us back in that. And I think this was her sort of reconnecting her son to saying, like, you're that and all of these things,
Yeah.
and now you get to be all of these things in a more balanced way. So yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah.
That was really, really cute.
Hmm.
And just like the whole movie is really
Yeah. It's
it,
it's a really fun movie. It's a lot deeper than I think like on a first watch. Like I would have not thought as deeply because I probably watched it when it came out, like in 2018 and hadn't watched it again till, this week. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, like all of these things kind of have resurfaced and I don't know that I would have thought about it as much.
It's interesting. Hopefully, it met you where you were in both of those situations in a
yeah.
completely different way.
It
Um,
actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it had been a while since I had seen this too, and I was really glad to go back and see it with fresh eyes. And so, for everybody who's watching, those are the 10 things we love about this movie. And we want to know what you all love. So, feel free to jump into the comments. Maybe there are things that we mentioned that you love, maybe there are things we didn't, and you want to add them. But I'd love to hear about those things. Cesar and Ricky, did you have any other things that you wanted to bring up as honorable mentions?
Okay, honorable mentions, and I'm just gonna say this because I really love this movie. There's also a TV series called Love Victor, and it's like the same universe. Simon makes a cameo there a couple times. Bram makes a cameo, and it's pretty much the story of this other kid that moves from Texas to Georgia, where the school is, and like he um, realizes Simon's story, and it's pretty much another coming out story with more characters, but this time as a TV series. So you get to see more of this
Hmm.
and how it develops, but it's pretty much like the
Yeah.
same story. So I like that. Again,
We're big like theater nerds, musical theater, and so all of the little like references, like he had a Hamilton thing in
Playbill, Hamilton,
Playbill,
oh, just
and
fun
then the
fact.
whole like dance sequence, like, oh, when I go to LA to go to school for college, he's just gonna be like this over the top dancing around. Like that scene was really fun.
Yeah, Whitney Houston, Dorothy,
Whitney
like he had
Houston
like
and
all of
all
those
that. It's
things.
like those like quintessential like gay theater type things. I really enjoyed that little
We
thing.
we also didn't bring it up like during the 10 points because you we can just fit certain things, but as well the conversation that Simon has with his dad. afterwards, and his dad apologized for like he's like we wasted these years. Like when did
Yeah.
you find out? Like when I was 13 or so. So he's like 4 years that I have wasted making these bad jokes that make you uncomfortable. Like I'm sorry about that,
Hmm.
because like again, you're just assuming there's so many things that are just like it's just a joke. I'm just being funny, but like you never know
Yeah.
what's happening with the other person. So something like that can actually be hurtful or can actually make it even scarier to come out to someone that keeps telling you like, where's the girlfriend?
Yeah,
Like
where's
where
going?
like
Oh, did you get somebody pregnant? Like, all of these little jokes makes it harder. It could wedge,
what did
put
you
a
do?
wedge in between your relationship. And it's really lovely to see that his dad recognizes it
You
and
can
says,
see the moment Simon reveals his secret, you can see his dad
yeah,
playing the recording back in his head of everything
awesome.
he said
It's
to this
almost start
kid.
crying. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
Yeah,
like
I was like,
like literally 2 minutes before he says it, he makes an awful joke. Like, it's like he just, and then, he's also, so emotional about it. And he really feels sorry. And I think it's really great. I did really enjoy that
yeah.
interaction with him and his dad.
mm,
And also one last thing, Leah, I think we didn't talk that much about her, but
Oh,
like
Leah, yeah.
Leah, like the night that she was pretty much like trying to like reveal her secret as well to Simon, and like he didn't get it, but like I think we see again another character that
Yeah.
we feel really empathic with, and she's like, you know that it won't work out, and you know that she's talking to him and he's not seeing it, so you feel for her at that point, and you're like, well, how is this gonna develop? Like, how is she gonna take it when she finds out
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
that he's gay, and also like how is she gonna take it when she finds out that he came out to Abby first? Because like those are the things that you consider, and like you see as well, like you have built this relationship, so like she might feel betrayed twice, like
Yeah.
why didn't you tell me and why you told someone else first? But like those little things that like I guess this movie has way much more depth, and again as you were saying, like every time that watching this movie is like a different stages in life, so
Hmm.
you get to see it a little bit more. But yeah, those were pretty much our honorable mentions.
oh,
Uh,
those are really good ones.
yeah,
And with Leah, when she finally admits to Simon, no, no, it was you. It was you that I was
Yeah.
saying
Like,
you.
yeah, yeah.
And
hello.
the gut punch you see those two actors have. Like they're both like the wind gets knocked out of both of them when she says it. And I thought that was the most amazing moment because I relate to that. It's like I put it out there and it's like the whole world just sort of goes black for a second when
Yeah.
you put something like that out there and
And
um
it's not
yeah.
meeting your expectations. Yeah, exactly. But then I found it really funny when she was like, "Yeah, I'm killing like heterosexual Simon, like like he's gone."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Tell me about the guy so I can kill the
yeah,
hetero you.
yeah,
So good.
yeah.
Well, okay. I mean, we've got 10 plus things we love. And again, folks, we would love to hear from all of you on what you love about this film. Before I share what the next film is on Rom-Com Month, Ricky and Cesar, anything that you want to share with us that you have coming up? Anything you want to direct us to?
Well, we're really excited. There's a new season of The Amazing Race coming. We're really
Yeah.
excited. We
We're
might be doing
excited.
some coverage on it. We have a YouTube channel, Ricky and Cesar. Yeah, like it's if you like travel, if you like The Amazing Race, like just we have a bunch of stories. We are gonna be traveling a lot this year, so we're gonna be sharing a lot of our stories on our Instagram, mostly Ricky and Cesar. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
Amazing. Everybody be sure to check that out, especially if you enjoy Amazing Race or if you've never seen it, go watch it because it's amazing.
It's
Truly.
It's
really
really
fun.
fun.
It's so fun. And so I can't wait to see what you are going to be covering for that. And if you're enjoying Rom-Com Month and you want to know what's next up, tomorrow is going to be day 13. We're going to talk about how to lose a guy in 10 days.
Oh,
It's a 2003 film with Kate Hudson and Matthew McConaughey. And I'm not covering that one alone. I'm going to be joined by America Lopez from Big Brother 25. So we're going to have such a blast talking about that one. My read is that that's the iconic rom-com for a generation after me. So it's like really fun to see different types of people coming into each movie here. So if you like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, be sure to check that out. I hope you'll all join me. In the meantime, happy rom-com month, everybody. Get love, get donuts. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Happy
bye.
Valentine's.